Hello friends, I am Dr. Suchita Vishwakarma, Assistant Professor from Department of Management, School of Management Sciences, Lucknow. Welcome you all to the series of lecture on supply chain and logistics management. And I hope students by now that you have been very well been aware of the various concepts related to supply chain, logistics, and in all our previous lectures we have discussed a lot about what is supply chain, the performance of supply chain, logistics also, and the transportation. Now, in the complete supply chain, as we have been always discussing, that it is a process in which a lot of people, lot of organizations, lot of activities are interrelated and interdependent on each other. So, one very important function is warehousing, and this is going to be the topic of discussion in our today's lecture. So, we would be understanding that what is warehousing, the various concepts related to warehousing, and the types of warehousing. So, let us get started. Over here you can see at my back you can see two pictures which are a typical representation of a warehouse, where you can see that it is basically in a common language we usually call warehouse as godowns or godam, and as you can see that these are big hall kind of structures which may have separate rooms for separate kinds of product, and they obviously have lots of shelves, lots of racks for keeping for stacking a lot of inventories by various organizations, and it may be that the warehouse is owned by some particular organization only, but it may be also that the organization is not owned by any particular organization and is shared by many organizations. So, obviously this is something that we will be discussing in today's lecture also. So, as you can see that this is a typical representation. Now, let us understand that what warehouse is actually. So, warehouse is basically a commercial building generally used for storage of goods, and the warehousing is the process of proper storage and handling of goods and cargo using scientific methods in the warehouse and making them available easily and smoothly when needed. Now, you may ask me at this particular moment that why warehouse is required, and why over here we have written that it is that warehouse is required for proper storage. What does it actually mean? So, over here students, you need to understand that warehouse is basically a place where any organization can choose to keep any kind of inventory, and when I am saying any kind of inventory, it could be the raw material, it could be the work in progress inventory, or it could be the completely finished product also. Now, organization may need to keep these inventories because it is not always feasible for all kind of organizations to produce the products only on demand. That means produce on orders. There may be companies who are opting a strategy where they are focusing on push kind of strategy, and they are producing in larger quantities in order to avail lot of benefits. So, warehouse is basically any place and that place can be inside the campus of the production unit, or outside the campus of the production unit, or placed at some remote or strategic locations. So, this is warehouse has a very significant role in the complete supply chain process. Now, coming back to the definitions again, warehousing refers to the activities involved in storage of goods on large scale in a systematic and orderly manner, and making them available conveniently whenever needed by the customer, whenever needed by any of the intermediary, or whenever needed by the organization itself. So, let us also understand the need of warehouse. The first need of warehouse, as I was discussing, is the regular supply. Now, what do we mean by regular supply? It is that as I was telling you that organizations would may not opt for, or there may be a strategic decision by an organization to not to produce only on orders, but to produce in certain extra quantities, so that they can meet the regular supply, the unpredicted demand, or maybe the large scale of demand by the customers. So, in that case company may feel that yes, in order to maintain, because maybe that the time that is being involved in producing a particular good is is quite long, and so it may be feasible for the company कि हाँ पहले से बना के रखे हैं and then produce provide the customer with that particular product. So this is basically regular supply. Then is regular demand of product, sorry, seasonal demand of product. Seasonal demand of product basically talks about the need to store those kinds of products which are dependent on seasonal availability of raw materials. For example, there is a company who is making like let's say fruit juices. So we know that there are certain fruits which are available only during particular season. So obviously, and if I want to offer my customers and I want to make the fruit juices available to my customers throughout the year, then obviously I'll have to store the raw material, the different kind of fruits, and then I'll have to process it, and so that is required. That means the seasonal demand of product also leads to need of warehousing. Then need of warehouse is also there for quality, because for example there are certain products in which the quality of the product gets enhanced after keeping it for certain period. That means you cannot consume it just after production. For example, let me take examples of food grains only. There are various kinds of rice, potato and such kind of things which are kept for them to ripe, or they are kept for certain other reasons. So over here also the product has to be kept so that they are kept safely, and during that waiting period they get ripe or they get properly mature enough for consumption. So that means it is the need over here of the warehouses for quality improvement of the product. Then buffer stock of the trade. Buffer stock is nothing but the extra amount of stock that we are having. So any surplus amount of stock could be for the raw material, could also be for the finished goods. That means whenever I am trying to keep extra amount of product with me, so as to reduce my risk of non-availability of products either to the customer or to myself also for the purpose of production. Next, coming to price stabilization. Students, we have been always listening about various kinds of products for which maybe food products or other kind of products for which the price of that product has suddenly gone up, and we keep on hearing news and information that since that product is not available in the market and hence the price has enhanced. So in order to keep the prices stable, because we are not very sure that yes there may be situations when the price of the raw material has increased, and as a result I am not able to produce the good, but I have to offer that particular good. I cannot increase the price at drastically. So in order to maintain the price at a certain level, because obviously a lot of fluctuation of the price leads to customer dissatisfaction, so company is also required to maintain stocks in the warehouse, be it raw material, be it finished good, for the reason of price stabilization. Then perishable product, as I was discussing, for example there are certain perishable goods which get the quality of which gets bad very easily. For example, fruits, vegetables, so they also needs to be warehoused so as to have a good quality, in order to maintain the good quality for some period of time. Then continuous production. If a company is continuously producing in order to leverage out the benefits of economies of scale, in order to leverage out the in order to optimize the utilization of the machineries, then obviously they will be required to store that particular production over somewhere, and that also needs to be very safely done. So that is continuous production. Quick supply. That means whenever the customer demands, I should have the offering available with me. So that is quick supply. Coming to protection and preservation of good. Obviously, any of the raw material or be it finished good cannot be kept in open for the weather to degrade the quality. That means there should be special structures. There is a requirement of special structures with special facilities depending on the type of product, and that is what it is that warehouse is required for protection and preservation of goods. Easy handling. Warehouses are also required because stacking up of inventories at one place may lead to problems in handling out. For example, lot of different kind of inventories if simply stacked up somewhere, then it may lead to a lot of confusion that what is the kind of inventory and how to get the particular inventory which I require at this particular point. So, warehouses are required, and they have as I showed in the previous picture also, that they have particular shelves in a systematic manner, so that it helps to identify the inventory where it is kept and accordingly I mean take it out and provide the supply also. Then useful for small businesses also, even for a small business or for large business, whatever it is. I mean for them it is always feasible that they produce larger quantities, because they may not have that big I mean infrastructure facility to produce in larger quantities. So, it is useful for them. Also, creation of employment, obviously warehouse, if there is a warehouse, then obviously there will be people who would be required to manage that warehouse. So, warehousing helps in creation of employment also. Then facilitates sale of good. Warehouses not only serve the purpose of storage only, but there are certain kind of warehouses which also provide certain extra benefits in terms of packing, in terms of breaking the bulk and such kind of things. So, it also facilitates in sale of good. That means these because of these value additions that are done at warehouse, it facilitates sales. And then availability of finance. If I as a producer am keeping my products safe in a warehouse, it may be easy, this may lead to ease of me applying for a loan from an organization or a bank. So, banks or any of the financial institutions do check and ensure that the producer is keeping their products safely, and that will obviously lead to value addition to the customer. So, this is also very important over here. Now, coming to the various functions of warehouse. So, as I was discussing, when we were discussing, we had discussed about few functions, but then just to repeat again, the functions of warehouses are storage of good. I mean it has to be kept safely, then I mean it has to be kept somewhere. Then the second function is protection of good. That means it has to be kept somewhere in such a manner that it is kept safely, that safe from the weather conditions, safe from the external extremities, safe from the any rodents and so also. Then risk bearing. The risk bearing, that there are warehouses which do also take the responsibility that the product or the inventory that is kept in the warehouse will not go bad, and if in case the quality degrades, then they take the ownership of that, they will be responsible for it, and they would take the financial ownership also. So, that is risk bearing. Then as I discussed financing is also one of the functions, because many of the warehouses do also own the inventories before they are sold. Then processing, packaging, grading and branding, as I was discussing, that in many of the organizations the packaging, the work of packaging and the work of branding, not the branding exactly, but labeling, yes, labeling and packaging and everything is done by, and the grading, that means segregation of different qualities of product is done at warehouse only. So, that leads to obviously enhancement of brand also. So, this is also one of the important functions of warehouse. The other function are transportation. Transportation basically means that warehouses are usually located in such a strategic location that it would help the organization in routing the pickup and the delivery of the inventories from that particular location, because there may be it may be a situation that the production unit is at a remote location from where it is not convenient for the customer or the intermediary to pick up the inventory. So, it also helps in transportation purpose. Consolidation is basically a concept where lot of different kind of that means it is kind of a concept where companies are focusing on getting a collection of various inventories. for example, there is a warehouse A, and that particular warehouse is getting supplies from various organizations who are offering maybe similar or different kind of inventories or finished good, and from there the transporter, as we had already discussed when we were talking about transportation. So, it serves as a purpose of cross docking also. So, that is basically consolidation. And then breaking bulk, obviously when the warehouses break the larger quantities into smaller quantities to make it more feasible and available for the retailers or intermediaries. So, now talking about the various types of warehouse. There are majorly 5 types of warehouse: private, public, government, bonded and cooperative, and accordingly the risk bearing and the cost is involved. So, and obviously the services of the offered by the different warehouses. So, let us go in detail of all of them one by one. Now, this is the private warehouse. Now, as the name itself says, private warehouse is one in which the in which one body or one organization is owns that particular warehouse. Say for example, if I am an organization and I want to have my personal own warehouse, then that will be called a private warehouse. Now, why would I like to have my own warehouse? Because obviously if I have my own warehouse, only my products will be kept over there, point number one. Point number two, obviously I would have more of control. That means I would have more of control in the way I want to keep my my inventories, in that whatever type of inventory I would like to keep, and the security and everything, it would be managed by me only. So, it will be, I will have more of control. I will have more of control on my suppliers and intermediaries also, because I would know exactly that when they are coming and when what is happening, and I will have more of control on more of up to date information on the inventory which is available also. And obviously these are basically suitable for large organizations, and basically suitable for those organizations who have a requirement of large amount of inventory to be kept. That means maybe they are producing in larger quantities, or the resources are of that they are wanting is of larger quantities, and so they are able to meet out the cost, because owning a private warehouse is also a very costly affair. That means you have to I mean the company is actually required to maintain lot of facilities also, which all of them would obviously be owned by the company itself. So, that also is one of the reasons that many of the organizations try and avoid having private warehouse. In fact, the small companies also avoid having private warehouse, but still the companies who have requirement of larger inventories and have a continuous flow of larger inventories, for them the private warehouse is a good concept. The private as in continuation with the same point, private warehouses provide a better control. The chances of error and mistakes are less, because obviously the company will have the complete ownership of whatever they are doing and how they want to keep in the inventories in the warehouse. Designing was also done as per the suitability and requirement of the owner, and there is a greater flexibility also. That means I can change the structure, the racks and the placing of the inventories as per my own choice. Now, coming to the second kind of warehouse, which is the public warehouse. These are used by small firms and large, and this may be used by small firms and large firms, and provide a storage and physical service on a rental basis. So, as we were discussing in the previous type of warehouse, that is a private warehouse, we discussed that it is maintaining a private warehouse is a costly affair, because that is a large structure in which the facilities and everything has to be managed by the company only. So, contrary to that, public warehouse are ones where any of the organization can choose to keep their products and store their products safely and with a lot of protection, and they will have to pay only the rental. That means the amount of inventory that I am keeping, or the amount of space which I am actually taking from that warehouse, for that particular amount of volume only I will have to pay the rent. So, this becomes very economic, and one of the very important aspects because of which public warehouses are very common. It is usually organized by traders, manufacturers, agriculturalists, and is shared by all of them. For having For having such a public warehouse, the government gives licenses, and there are few very common public warehouses like the Central Warehousing Corporation or the State Warehousing Corporation or the FCI also, where any of the big small company or the farmer can keep their products as per their choices. They have lot of departmentalization, and separate kind of facilities are provided for separate kind of product. So, any organization can choose that what is the requirement and accordingly keep their products in it. The agents could be the owners can be any agent or any particular trader also. The suitability is that the seasonal production or low volume storage need of any organization can be met easily. In the public warehouse, the companies have a wide choice of location and warehouse type, because since I am not owning, obviously I can have inventories at different public warehouses according to my requirement of strategic locations. Then coming to the flexibility to meet space requirements, obviously if I am in requirement of keeping larger inventory today, I will rent out a bigger space. If I have a requirement of lesser keeping the lesser or smaller quantity of inventory tomorrow, then I would rent out. So, that means the cost is related to the space that I would require, and that hence by it provides a lot of flexibility to me. More efficiency and less expensive, obviously. Cost easily and exactly ascertained. It is very easy to know that what is the cost that I would be incurring by if I want to keep in public warehouse, because there are certain standards and certain rates which are predefined. So, one can know it easily. Fixed cost distributed among many users, the cost of electricity, the cost of security guard, the cost of installation of all these are equally and mutually shared by all the people who are renting out that warehouse. So, that is also not a big issue, and strategically located at immediately available. That means these kind of warehouses are located at most of the important trade areas to facilitate the trade. Now, coming to the third kind of warehouse, which is the government warehouse. These are owned and managed by central government or state government, or maybe also done by the local authorities. Examples are again Central Warehouse Corporation, State Warehousing Corporation for FCIs and all. If customers do not pay rent with specified time authorities, they can recover the rent of disposing the goods also. So, these government warehouses are again much more subsidized in comparison to the public warehouses, and over here the facility and the management is completely done by government itself. And if any person is not able to pay the rent as per time, the government can also go for auction or bidding of that particular good so as to recover the charges. Next is the bonded warehouse. Bonded warehouse is basically one kind of warehouse which is not usually used by organizations or people who are trading within the domestic boundaries. It is usually used by people who are involved in international trade. So, basically licenses to accept import and imported goods for storage, payment of customs are few of the functions which are supported by bonded warehouse. In this, any of these kind of warehouses are usually located at locations from where import or export can be done easily. So, that means at a coastal area or maybe near the airports or near the main highways from where the goods can be transported for international trade. Imported merchandise is usually stored over here, and after payment of custom duties and taxes, they are sent or moved to other locations. They are usually owned by port trust and acts in two capacity, that is the landlords and the bailey of the good. That means these port trust people are also work as the landlord, because since they are providing all the facilities and managing it, and also as a bailey. That means they are kind of people who are keeping that particular good for certain time, and then obviously holding a responsibility of short term ownership, you can understand over here. Now, owners can sell goods worth, or the owners can if the payment is not payment or the rental part of bonded warehouse is not done, then the owners may sell the good wholly or in partial to recover the rental amount. and as value of goods take reasonable care to handle and storage good. So, it has a lien on the goods, that means only when the payment is done by the producer or the person who is keeping the particular inventory or product in the bonded warehouse, then only that product will be released for export. Now coming to the fifth type of warehouse, which is cooperative warehouse. As the name itself says that cooperative warehouses are those in which it is the warehouse is managed by in collaboration or in cooperation with 3-4 kind of organizations. So, the basic perspective of such kind of warehouse is the mutual benefit of all these participants who are owning that particular warehouse. So, it is basically a facility which is provided to the members of this cooperative committee at a economic rate, and these can be done for a profit reason or not for profit reason also, and usually these are located in the areas of Punjab, Karnataka, Maharashtra and Andhra, which are basically into lot of trade, and similar kind of products are being manufactured over here. So, that means the farmers and the producers are collaboratively and coming together to own a warehouse and take the mutual benefit of all these. Now coming to the characteristics of warehouse. So, basically the characteristics involves that a warehouse should be at a very convenient location. Convenient location means convenience in terms of the customers as well, and for the producer or the supplier also, because the location would help in getting ease of transportation, would help in breaking the bulk, will help in consolidation of the inventory, and so the location is something very important in case of warehouse. Availability of mechanical appliances to load and unload. A warehouse should have well planned and specialized facilities of loading and unloading, because otherwise it may lead to damage of products. Adequate space for keeping all kinds of inventories. It should also have cold storage facility for requirement of any kind of for a special requirement of special kind of products, maybe dairy products or maybe fruits, vegetables, grains or certain things. Proper arrangement for protection. Obviously, the protection has to be done not only from the weather extremities, but also from the theft by any other person or from the rodents as well. Sufficient parking space, because over here, as we were discussing earlier also, that warehouses has to be such that any kind of vehicle, maybe road transport or such big trolleys and can come and load or unload the products over there. So, sufficient parking space should be there, because obviously they will there may be instances when 2-3 big trolleys are also loading or unloading at a simultaneous time. Round the clock security arrangement is also one of the characteristic of warehouse, and the very important aspect is also the latest fire fighting equipments should also be there in warehouse. So, with this we have completed our topic of warehouse. For further readings, you may refer to this particular website. Thank you.